Hello again. Welcome to the long road home. I'm Liz, and this is the story of my life. You may be thinking, why are you doing this? Well, it's to let people know that even though there is tragedy, loss, tears, and pain, there is still hope. There is still beauty. And in your times of need, look within. Find that spark of divinity. Because that's what you are. You are divinity. You are divinity. Remember that. And there is still joy, peace, and love. I still have hope for this world. We are coming up upon a great awakening. A soul evolution. And we need to be the light. I'm an empath. Clairvoyant sometimes. I have little control over it sometimes. Sometimes being an empath is not the greatest thing. Emotions overwhelm you. Other people's emotions overwhelm you. You can feel things. Sometimes people project so much, their feelings and their emotions and their stress, that, it's like a slap to the face. Truly. It's difficult some days. Oh, cover my burp. Anyway, on the last video, I ended up with the death of my mother. It was very, very tragic. That was a very hard time in my life. I held her as she died. I wailed when she died. I was just heartbroken because even though our relationship was awful, she was awful. It was an end. It was a tower moment. It was a moment so profound that it just drowned me in grief. But it also, it was also release. I didn't have to keep trying to fix her. I didn't have to keep worrying about, is there going to be, what's going to happen next? What is she going to do next? Any fixing our relationship was over with. It was done. And I could move on. I know that sounds awful, but I could move on. But then it was dealing with the grief and the pain and the sorrow. I mean, this happened in September of 2005. I was just, it was so much profound grief. And this is also the year that I reconnected with my brother at her death. Whenever I'd seen my dad. It's been years since I'd really, truly got to see him, like 6-7 years. I got to heal a little bit of my family issues then with them. So, it was a positive step forward. But I was so lost in grief after her death that I remember just sitting there on my couch crying and crying and crying and just so depressed. And on top of that, the money that I had saved up to move, to fix up the house, I had used it at first just to live off of because of the fact that I decided to take care of my mom. I didn't have a job. And it wouldn't be until December of that year that I started doing some temp work. I think it was December of 2005, a few months after she died. It was hard. But before I went back to work, that day that I told you that I was crying and crying and crying and crying and crying, that was like in November, right before I went back, and I was just devastated. And, my dad wasn't doing well either. And I wasn't doing well either. Mentally, I was just not there. This is when I started to mentally drift. But I was tired and I got up. I had to go get my daughter, I think it was like a couple hours or something. And I went in there to lay down in bed just to rest. And I just flicked up and I asked, why? Why can't I heal? Why is this just so disturbing? Why can't I just let it go? I feel bad for my mother. How do I deal with this? Um, and I was still leaning a lot on my faith, on my Christian faith. I'm not a Christian anymore, but then I was, and I was still just saying, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. And as I closed my eyes, I was just trying to relax. I started, deep breathing to try to meditate. I had given it up a long time ago, just because things had gotten so chaotic and I had gotten away from my meditation. I was trying to pick it up again to try to calm myself down. And as I was doing this, I said, I'm sorry, Mom. I wish I could have helped. I wish I could have made things better for us. I wish we could have been better. I truly do. And I miss you. And I'm sorry that there's no more opportunities for us to grow closer. And as I said this out loud, it's like this warmth came over me of utter love, of comfort. And I had this vision. And in this vision, there was my mother. She was standing in her house. It was filled with light and warmth and love. There was nothing else in the house, just me and her. And there it was, that purity, grace, acceptance. And she held her arms open. And I walked into her arms. And she held me. And I held her back. And she said, I love you. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And I basked. And I was crying. I was crying again. But it was different this time. And I opened my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, everything, the vision was gone. I was so upset. I said, no, wait, come back. You can't leave yet. I still have so many things to tell you. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. And from that day forward, I still feel her. She's still with me. I feel her sometimes. I'll know, you see, I get smells. I can smell things. That's my thing. And I know when she's around because I can smell cigarettes. It's not an overpowering sense or anything. It's just, that faint smell of tobacco. That nicotine. So, it can be a little distressing sometimes because I really don't like the smell. But I know that's my mother. I know that she's here. I know that she's with me. So, sorry, my cats are bothering me. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, here I am. Sorry about that interruption, but they all decided that they either had to, cats don't like closed doors. So anytime I close my door, they'll just hang out there. I've got the entire other part of the house to explore, but they're going to come in here. They got to be in here. And if I open the door, they'll come in, they walk around, then they walk right back out. And they're good. And I can close the door again for another 5 minutes before they start scratching at it. Anyway. Yes. My mom. Yeah. When she died, so much grief, so much pain, it all lifted off of me. And I thought about this as I was sitting there in my grief. I thought, why be angry anymore? There is no reason to be angry. She is gone. She is gone. You can't do anything else. Whatever you thought could go on, there is no more anger. There is no more regret. Nothing. Just nothing. And it all lifted off of me. And I let it go. Even as I speak about that lightness, that beauty, that love that I had for her, even though she wronged me and treated me awful and was abusive and horrible to me my whole life, it just lifted off of me. There's nothing in my heart now but love for her. I have let it go, and I can honestly say, I love you, Mom. And I do. Those people who wronged me, I love them. I send them love and I let it go. Because I want to move on in my life. I want to move forward. I don't want to get stuck in the past. I just don't. I choose to live in the light. I choose to be the light, to look within, and to find peace and hope and joy. Sorry, I gotta remember to look up at the camera, because, you know, this doesn't really look like I'm looking at you, so I gotta look up here. But that's me. But it doesn't end here. You're like, holy crap. It doesn't end here. After my mother died, my father died too. He died in December 2005, just months apart. You know, he really could not let go of the hate he had for my mother. And before he died, he's like, I told you I'd outlive her. I told you I'd outlive her. You know, but the last bit of his life was, he lived 20 years in a bed, in a hospital bed, unable to walk. You know, so many problems. You know, stuck in a bed in my brother's house. And yeah, I say that because, you know, my brother's life was chaotic too. My father didn't catch a break. He could not catch a break. His life was tragic, and it ended tragically too. He had a heart attack. I was there when he died too, in his hospital room. He was, the problem was is that he had a clot went to his heart. But it was a clot that he got because he somehow broke his leg. The man who doesn't get up and walk and can't do anything broke his leg at a care facility, which is now thankfully shut down. It was a VA-sponsored care facility. It was just awful. We do not treat our vets with any respect, and it disgusts me. It really disgusts me. My father just, all he wanted to do was serve his country. He came home broken. A soldier's heart. PTSD. Yeah. Shell-shocked, whatever you want to call it. That's how he came home. And he just didn't get what he deserved. He deserved to be cared for. He deserved to be honored for his sacrifice. He was supposed to get full honors at his funeral. They couldn't be bothered to show up. At least that's what the funeral director says. They were busy. Oh, I'm sorry. A man who sacrificed his mental health and his best friend. You know, like I said in a previous video, his best friend, he was shot in front of him with a bullet to the face. And he had to take that friend home. He had to accompany that friend home and help bury him. And because his best friend's mother, that was her only child. And he died right in front of his best friend. And my dad had to go there and, you know, help her carry on. Be there for her because she was like a mother to him. Because they were best friends. They were like brothers. And he had to bury him. And that broke him. The Korean War broke him. He was in the Air Force, by the way. Communications. So, you know, in communications, they always try to, that's the one thing they try to take out. They always try to take out, because that's, you know, in warfare, you know, communications is key. So, his life was not happy. And he wouldn't talk much about it. I only learned about it because of my brother. He told my brother. But he wouldn't tell me because I was this little girl. I was a woman. He didn't tell you those things. He didn't talk about that. It was like this big secret. Yeah. Yeah. So he died just on the heels of my mother. So I lost my husband in 2003. Horrible breakup in 2001. The loss of my husband in 2003. A terrible betrayal from somebody else I got involved with in 2004. The death of my mother and my father in 2005. You know, it was just like slap me and slap me hard. I was just devastated. I was on a roll. It just seemed to never quit. Those tower moments just kept coming and coming and coming and coming and beating me down. God. At this point, my weight was ballooning. I wasn't feeling well. My health was beginning to deteriorate. My mental health was beginning to deteriorate. Yeah, I went back to work. I went back to work that December too. I'm like, I have to. We're going to starve. I went back to work. Trying to raise my daughter by myself. She was 10 at this point. Going back to work was difficult too. But I was lucky. I got a temp job that let me, come in a little bit later because I had to take her to school. I had to drop her before and after school care, which wasn't cheap. And we'd moved into this dumpy house that, lied to about it. That was terrible. Lying, end up with this awful house. Death and betrayal everywhere. And I was in a bad place. I was trying to fix things in the house with little to no money. I was trying to raise, and another thing is that the same year that my husband died in 2008, in 2003, my daughter was 8, and they diagnosed her with ADHD, and they thought she was slightly dyslexic. She might be a little dyslexic. She wasn't learning to read very well, and they were telling me, "Oh, we can't teach her how to read. We can't do this. We can't do that. We don't know how to do anything." Apparently, she was too difficult to teach, and I should just medicate her. Oh my God, I was so pissed off. I'm like, what do you mean? You can't teach her how to... She's just not learning. So that's when I started taking things into my own hand. When I found out she had ADHD, I changed things up. I went, I started making sure that we had a strict schedule, because that helps, structure helps with kids who have ADHD. And then I changed her diet up, tried to get her more active and, get into more active things. That didn't really work. She was not a very physically active child. Tried to get her into soccer. Good Lord. That was a disaster. She ended up scoring a goal for the other team. She went the wrong way. So as you can tell, that wasn't it. She wasn't interested in anything. I tried to get her into competitive swimming. She wasn't having none of that. Well, what happened is that she slipped on a blueberry in the vegetable aisle in the grocery store and hurt her back, and then we couldn't do swimming. It's just... Physical activity was not her thing. I tried. I really tried. I tried her to be, physically active. By being physically active with her too, but that didn't work either. Yeah. But yeah, that was still dragging me down. I was still having to go up to school all the time. And the thing was that I would give the teachers, I would tell exactly, I knew my child. I would give them a packet that described our routine. There was a lot of information, good information. I even spoke with them. And I said, now she's having problems. You got to tell me. Okay. And I wouldn't know that there were problems until like October, November during the parent-teacher conferences. It's like, did you read the packet? Because they were telling me, oh, well, we're having problems. Well, did you read the packet I gave you? What packet? What do you mean, what packet? So yeah, that was very stressful. It was so stressful dealing with the school systems. It was just like banging your head into a wall. And trying to get help for her was just awful too. They wanted to shove her into a special ed class with, and I seen this special ed class. This was later on. This was like in junior high, going into high school. This special ed class, I swear to God, you just might as well have given the kids a jar of paste and let them eat it. That's what it was like. It was unorganized. It was chaotic. They weren't learning in there. It was just a place to put the kids that they didn't know what to do with. I was furious. I'm like, there is no way in hell you're putting my child in this. But we kept, my daughter was like, please don't take me out of school. Please don't take me out of school. I really still want to stay in school. And it was horrible. They treated her terrible. So I was having to deal with the school doing absolutely nothing about the bullying, about her learning issues. And all they wanted to do was shove her in a classroom and lock her away. That was their solution. That was so hard to deal with. I didn't know what to do. But yeah. Yep. I was dealing with all of that on top of everybody dying on me. Relationships exploding. Crappy house. It was a nightmare. But I'm going to leave it off here, and I'll pick up in the next video, because this one's getting long, right? 21 minutes now. Anyway, love, blessings, and peace to you. I will see you in the next video.